There's a moment that happens to almost everyone. You walk into a car showroom, look at a car you really like, and within a few minutes, someone tells you, don't worry, this is easily affordable for you. And suddenly, that car that felt expensive starts to feel possible because they don't talk about the price. They talk about the monthly payment. Only $500 a month, only $700 a month. And just like that, your brain starts doing a simple calculation. If I can pay the EMI, I can afford the car. But here's the problem. That one assumption is exactly where most people go wrong. Because affording the payment is not the same as affording the car. And the difference between those two ideas can quietly cost you thousands of dollars over the next few years. So before you decide what car you can afford, you need to understand what afford actually means. Because once you see it clearly, you'll never look at a car price the same way again. And this is where car buying gets dangerous, because the number most people focus on isn't the real cost. It's the monthly payment. A dealership can take an expensive car, stretch the loan over 6, 7, even 8 years, and suddenly the payment looks manageable. A $55,000 car doesn't feel like $55,000 anymore. It feels like only $689 a month. And psychologically, that changes everything. Because your brain stops asking, how much is this car actually costing me? And starts asking, can I survive this payment each month? That is a completely different question. And it's why two people with the exact same salary can end up in completely different financial situations. One person buys a car that comfortably fits their budget. The other buys the maximum payment the bank says they can handle. And for a while, both decisions feel fine. Until real life starts happening, insurance goes up, repairs show up, gas gets expensive, an emergency happens, and suddenly that affordable payment doesn't feel affordable anymore. Because a car payment doesn't exist by itself. It competes with everything else in your life. So here's the question almost nobody asks before buying a car. How much of my income should actually go toward it? Because just because a bank approves you doesn't mean it's a smart financial decision. Banks calculate risk differently than real life does. They care whether you can technically make the payment. You care whether the payment destroys your flexibility, and that difference matters a lot. A good rule a lot of financial experts use is the 20-4-10 rule, 20% down. Finance the car for no more than 4 years, and keep total car expenses under 10% of your monthly income. Now, at first, that sounds restrictive, especially today when cars are insanely expensive. But the reason this rule exists is because cars lose value fast. The moment you drive off the lot, the car starts depreciating. Meanwhile, your payment stays exactly the same. And this is where people accidentally trap themselves. They buy a car that eats too much of their income, which leaves less money for investing, less money for emergencies, and less freedom in general. A car should support your life, not quietly control it. So at this point, most people start asking the obvious question. Okay, so what's the safe amount to spend on a car? And this is where financial rules start showing up everywhere online. You've probably heard some version of them before. The most popular one is called the 24-10 rule. The idea is simple. Put at least 20% down, finance the car for no more than 4 years, and keep your total car expenses under 10% of your monthly income. That includes your payment, insurance, gas, maintenance, everything. And honestly, for a lot of people, this is actually a pretty solid guideline because it forces you to stay realistic. It stops you from stretching an 8-year loan just to fit into a car that's way outside your budget. But here's the important part. Most videos never mention these rules are not universal truth. They are guidelines, not laws. And your situation matters more than any formula. Because two people making the exact same salary can safely afford completely different cars. Let's say both people earn $90,000 a year. Person number one has no debt, cheap rent, no kids, and already invests consistently. That person has way more flexibility. Now compare that to someone else making the same income, but they have student loans, high housing costs, credit card debt, and 2 kids. Same salary, completely different financial reality. And this is where people make mistakes. They follow generic internet rules without looking at their own life first. Some people buy too much car because they only focus on income. Other people become overly restrictive, even when they can comfortably afford something nicer. Both extremes can be bad. Because the real goal isn't buy the cheapest car possible. The real goal is buy a car that fits your financial life without slowing down your future. And honestly, this is where lifestyle starts mattering more than math. If you genuinely love cars and driving is one of your biggest hobbies, maybe spending a little more is worth it to you. That's a personal choice. But if you're buying an expensive car mainly to impress people, that's usually where regret shows up later. Because car excitement fades surprisingly fast, but the payment that sticks around every single month. And here's something people rarely think about. Your car payment affects way more than just your bank account. It affects flexibility. It affects stress. It affects how much risk you can take in life. A massive car payment can trap people in jobs they hate because they can't afford income disruption. It can delay investing, delay buying a home, delay financial freedom. Meanwhile, someone driving a reliable, reasonable car often has way more room to breathe financially. And that freedom compounds over time. So yes, rules like the 20-4-10 rule are useful, but the smarter question is, what kind of financial life do I want this car to support? Because the best car decision usually isn't the one that looks richest today. It's the one that still feels comfortable 3 years from now. A lot of people think car affordability is simple. They look at salary, find a number online, and assume, okay, this is what someone making my income should drive. But real affordability doesn't work like that, because income alone tells you almost nothing. What actually matters is what happens to your money after the paycheck hits your account. And this is where two people with the exact same salary can end up in completely different financial situations. Let's say both people make $100,000 a year. On paper, they look identical. Same income, same age, same city. But person number one has no debt, lives in a reasonably priced apartment, already has an emergency fund, and invests consistently every month. Meanwhile, person number two has student loans, credit card debt, high rent, and is barely saving anything. Technically, both people can walk into the same dealership, but financially, they are living in two different worlds. And this is the mistake people make online. They use income as the entire equation. But affordability is really about margin. How much room do you actually have left after life gets expensive? Because your car payment is competing with everything else in your financial life. Your savings, your investing, your future house, your vacations, your emergency fund, your freedom. And honestly, debt changes this equation more than people realize. Someone earning $120,000 with massive debt can actually be in worse shape than someone earning $70,000 with almost no debt. Because high debt quietly destroys flexibility. It removes breathing room. And once that happens, even a normal car payment can suddenly feel stressful. This is also why financial goals matter so much. If one person wants to aggressively invest, retire early, or build wealth quickly, they may intentionally choose a cheaper car, not because they can't afford more, but because they'd rather put that money somewhere else. Meanwhile, someone else may prioritize driving experience more, and that's okay too. The important thing is making the decision consciously, not emotionally, not because social media normalized luxury car payments, and not because everyone else around you upgraded their car. Because once you understand this, you stop asking, how much car can someone with my salary afford? And you start asking the smarter question, what kind of car fits the financial life I actually want to build? And honestly, that one shift in thinking can save people years of financial stress. Let me show you what this looks like in real life. We'll use two people, same age, same city, same salary, both make around $95,000 a year. But they make one very different decision. Person A buys the dream car immediately. Brand new luxury SUV, huge monthly payment, long loan term, expensive insurance. At first, it feels amazing. The car smells new. People compliment it. Friends notice it immediately. For the first few months, it genuinely feels worth it. Meanwhile, Person B buys something simpler, reliable, a few years old, lower monthly payment. Nothing flashy. Honestly, most people barely notice it. And at first glance, person B almost feels behind. But this is where the story changes. Because after the excitement fades, real life shows up. Person A now has a massive monthly payment. Every single month, a huge chunk of income disappears immediately. Then insurance hits, then maintenance, then higher gas costs. And suddenly, small financial problems start feeling big. A surprise medical bill becomes stressful. A job issue becomes stressful. Even taking a vacation starts feeling harder because the car payment never stops. And this is the part people don't think about. The expensive car didn't just increase spending, it reduced flexibility. Meanwhile, person B has a much smaller payment, which means every month there's extra breathing room, extra money gets invested, savings slowly grow, unexpected expenses become annoying, but not catastrophic. And over time, the gap quietly gets bigger because person B isn't only saving money on the payment, they're also investing the difference. That's where compounding starts working quietly in the background. After 5 years, person A still has debt. The luxury SUV already feels normal now. The excitement is mostly gone. But the financial pressure stayed. Meanwhile, person B now has a growing investment account, a larger emergency fund, less stress, and far more flexibility. And here's the crazy part. From the outside, most people still think person A looks wealthier. But financially, person B is usually much stronger. And this is why affordability is deeper than just, can I make the payment? What is this car costing my future version of me? Because every large monthly payment silently competes with wealth building. And most people don't notice that until years later. A lot of people don't actually buy a car based on affordability. They buy a car based on one number. Can I afford the monthly payment? And honestly, that mindset destroys more budgets than people realize. Because dealerships know something very important about human psychology. If they can make the monthly payment feel small, people stop looking at the real price. That's why you'll hear things like, only $599 a month, just stretch the loan a little longer, lower down payment, drive home today. And suddenly, a car that costs way too much starts feeling reasonable. But here's the problem. When you only focus on the EMI, you stop noticing everything else attached to the car. Insurance, gas, maintenance, repairs, registration, taxes, interest. The car payment is only the beginning, and this gets even worse with long loan terms. A lot of people are now taking 6, 7, even 8-year car loans. Think about that for a second. Some people are still paying for a car after they already hate the car, or worse, after the car already started falling apart. And long loans create another dangerous problem. Negative equity. That means the car loses value faster than the loan disappears. So even after years of payments, you still owe more than the car is worth. That's how people get trapped rolling old debt into new cars over and over again. It becomes a cycle. And emotionally, this is where things get dangerous too, because a lot of car buying decisions are not financial decisions. They're emotional decisions disguised as financial ones. People buy cars to feel successful, to impress friends, to look richer, to prove they made it. But the uncomfortable truth is, looking rich and building wealth are usually opposite behaviors. The expensive car might impress people for 10 seconds, but financial stress follows you home every single month. And future, you pays the price. Because the bigger the car payment, the less flexibility you have later. Less money for investing, less money for emergencies, less freedom to leave a bad job, less freedom to take risks, less freedom overall. That's the part most people don't think about when buying a car. A car is not just a monthly payment. It's a long-term trade-off against your future options. And ironically, the people who become financially comfortable long-term are often the people who buy less car than they technically could afford. Here's the biggest mindset shift in this entire conversation. Affording a car is not the same thing as getting approved for a car, because the bank is not deciding what's good for your financial future. The bank is deciding what payment they believe you can survive. Those are two completely different standards. A dealership might approve you for a $70,000 car. That does not automatically mean a $70,000 car is a smart decision for your life. And this is where a lot of people accidentally confuse borrowing power with actual affordability. Real affordability is much simpler. Can you comfortably make the payment without your entire financial life becoming fragile? Can you still save money every month? Can you still invest consistently? Can you handle an emergency without panic? Can you take a vacation without guilt? Can you lose your job for a few months without everything collapsing? That's affordability, not the approval number. Because a car payment that technically fits on paper can still quietly destroy your financial flexibility. And flexibility matters more than people realize. The person with lower monthly obligations usually has more freedom. Freedom to leave a stressful job, freedom to move cities, freedom to start a business, freedom to invest more aggressively, freedom to breathe. Meanwhile, someone with huge fixed payments often feels trapped, even with a high income. That's the strange thing about lifestyle inflation. The more expensive your life becomes, the more money you need just to feel normal. And eventually, you stop owning your lifestyle. Your lifestyle starts owning you. That's why two people earning the exact same salary can feel completely different financially. One feels calm, the other feels constant pressure. Not because of income, because of obligations. And honestly, this is why some financially successful people drive surprisingly normal cars. It's not always because they can't afford more. Sometimes it's because they understand something most people don't. Every dollar locked into a car payment is a dollar that loses the ability to build freedom somewhere else. A car should support your life, not control it, and the best financial decisions usually don't look impressive from the outside. They feel peaceful on the inside. That's the real definition of affordable. Most people start with the car and then try to force their finances to fit around it. That's backwards. The smarter way is to build the car around your finances. So here's a simple framework you can actually use. Step 1, figure out your real monthly income after taxes, not your yearly salary, not your bonus, the actual money hitting your bank account every month. Step 2, subtract your fixed expenses, rent or mortgage, food, insurance, utilities, debt payments, savings, investments. And be honest here, because this is the step most people ignore. Step 3, decide what percentage of your remaining money can safely go toward a car payment. Not what the bank says, not what the dealership says, what you can comfortably handle without stress. For most people, somewhere around 10 to 15% of take-home pay is usually manageable. And step 4, reverse calculate the car price from there. This is where people finally realize the affordable car is often way cheaper than the emotional car. But that's not bad news, because the goal isn't to look rich for 5 minutes at a red light. The goal is to drive your car without your car driving your entire financial life. At the end of the day, the question isn't how much car can I buy? The real question is how much freedom am I giving up for this car? Because a car payment doesn't just take money, it takes options. Maybe it delays investing, maybe it delays buying a house, maybe it keeps you stuck at a job you hate because the monthly payment is too high to risk losing. And that's the part nobody talks about. A lot of people buy cars trying to look financially successful while quietly destroying the exact thing that actually creates financial success. Freedom. The truth is, the best car isn't the one that impresses strangers at a traffic light. It's the one that lets you sleep peacefully at night. The one that still allows you to save, still allows you to invest, still gives you breathing room when life gets expensive. Because eventually, the excitement of the car fades. But financial stress, that can stay with you for years. So before buying your next car, don't ask, can the bank approve this? Ask, will my future self thank me for this decision? And honestly, that one question alone can save you thousands of dollars and years of stress.